New at 9, Springfield Police are giving away free steering wheel locks to some vehicle owners. This after an increase in vandalism and attempted thefts of certain Kia and Hyundai models. These are some of the biggest targets of thieves. You can pick up a steering wheel lock between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday.
We actually saw a similar program at another jurisdiction, and when we saw this increase of vandalisms and attempted thefts here, I reached out to that other jurisdiction just to get some contact information, and we reached out directly to Kia and Hyundai to provide that same program here.
To see which vehicles qualify, open this story at ky3.com.